welcome everyone to Chirping Zebras episode 51. And Mark Riley alongside GENO BINDA Jr. and Josh Dolan coming to you from the interwebs. We're online today and we got a lot to discuss this week. We want to thank our sponsor, the Referees Crease. Gino's got the swag on.
You got to look, you got to, with the logo, you got to really get up tight to see it.
Oh, there it is.
Yep. Like, look at this winter hat. Right? Like somebody went up to me like, what is that? I go, you can't tell it's a Referee's Crease whistles and you can't tell that? Oh, here you go.
Well, that's one good thing about the Chirping Zebras. You see the zebras for sure, right?
Now this is a hat.
There it is. Right on. The trucker hat, which we're bringing back. We sold out, but we're getting more.
Yeah.
So we're going to get new merch in, too. We got some new sweatshirts coming. We have golf shirts going to be on order soon. So a lot of exciting stuff.
We'll feel like orange shirts, golf shirts.
Yeah, we might get a deal on them. Why not? So, and also thank AOA Studios. Yes. Even though we're not there physically right now, they'll do all the editing. Mike Scarfo, our man over there, does all our editing and stuff and puts together all the reels. So we appreciate him. And number 51, I did a little research on 51, and a few people have won it here and there, but a little trivia for everyone. Jeremy Roenick, in the 88-89 season, his first year with the Blackhawks, wore number 51.
Yep.
How about that?
The rookie number. Here's your,
yeah.
Here you go.
Before he got his trademark 27.
Yep.
So there you go. And I want right off the top, I want to show you the T-shirt. So Chris McMullen down at Cyrus 11, our merch guy, right, made up a little T-shirt for me that goes along with a lot of the things we said. And there it is.
Sack Tap a Moose.
Oh, we got to get one right over it. We got to get one to Andrew Alberts.
We're live.
Yeah.
If anybody's
Andrew Alberts.
If anybody's watching, what are we going to give someone Sack Tap a Moose right now?
We need video proof.
I seen videos of Moose, right? Like I've been sending them to Jackson. He sends me. It's hilarious, right? And I'm like, one charged at somebody the other day, and I'm like, how are you gonna go up and sack tap that thing?
Oh, you gotta, like I said, you gotta sneak up on it. You gotta sneak up on it.
No way.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be stealth. Matter of fact, I just booked the trip to Alaska.
Yes, you did. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to make that one. But
yeah, we're working on that.
We're still working.
July 4th weekend, heading out to Montana, to Bozeman to do the Bruins alumni Warrior for Life Fund tournament, and then I'm going to head up to Anchorage and hang with Stevie Glines, our buddy. We're going to tape up there, and also Action Jackson, Travis Jackson's going to hook me up too. So nice. We're going to have video proof of me sack tapping a moose. I'm telling you.
Hopefully it's stuffed.
Yeah. No, it's going to be real. I'm telling you. I'm going to do that, and I might even wrestle a bald eagle. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But
I think that one might be illegal. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I might get in trouble for that one.
Yeah, that might be federal. And
speaking of Montana, our last episode, we had Kevin Miller on.
Yes.
And talk about a great guy. What a fun time we had with him.
Incredible guy. Like awesome, like person. You know, hockey people are the best, right? Like everybody always says that. Hockey people are just a different breed within other athletes. And it's so true.
And you got to love the game too. And you can tell that hockey people like Kevin Miller loved the game because like the more the episode went in, all of a sudden he like flipped it and he was asking you guys the question.
Right. Yeah. Good question. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Very good point. So
yeah, no, if you haven't.
No. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you haven't watched it, you should check it out. Episode 50.
Absolutely. But we just, we just speaking of, confrontation with referees and people like Brian Riley. We just went down to his last game. 75 years behind the bench. There was a Riley name behind it as the head coach. He had his father, and then Rob, and then Brian just finished this year. His last game was this last Saturday, last home game, And it was interesting. Like he's yelling and screaming at the refs, this and that. Still the same crap, right? But they had a ceremony, a reception afterwards. And Eric Lang is the coach at AIC, and he was over at it. And he was, he coached with Brian, and he's that branch, coach's branch, right? And the crew, the referees are sitting there, and like Riley comes walking in, and he's like, "Hey, that was funny. I was yelling at you, and you come over to me. Why are you yelling at me? Yell at him. He was the one over there doing it." And like you just heard them just kind of like dissecting the game. It's just like it's so true. And like that commercial or that cartoon, The Wolf and the Sheep, when you check in, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey Ralph, hey
Fred.
Fred, right? We're just going to work. They go to work. They punch the clock. They're at each other for 60 minutes. Afterwards, you're over at the reception. Celebrating his great career. And we had a special moment with him before the game and all that kind of stuff. Presented a jersey and it was really, really good. My old man came down to they've known each other for over 30 years, right? And all that kind of jazz. And just a lot of memories with Brian. Like I kind of grew up with him behind the bench and him yelling and screaming at me. But he always said, he goes, it's just a movie. And, it's all within the walls. And then afterwards we can talk about it and move on because we're professionals. Right. And it's not personal. So that's a big thing.
I should note, no relation to me. Spelled the same. Spelled the same.
Point. Yes.
But no relation. Matter of fact, I had an extra nameplate kicking around that I gave to your dad to bring down for him. I guess you made a referee.
It was a little. You should have probably given him the one that was clean.
Well, that was on. I thought of that when I brought it over. It's in my bag for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. I hadn't used it, so
That's the donation.
Beggars can't be choosers. All right. I remember when I did the Army AIC game a few years back. Oh, there it is. Look at that. It looks fantastic.
Yo, man.
Yeah. Look at that. That looks all right. What he put a little magic eraser on there, whiten it right up.
Yeah, you can read it just as well as a referee's crease logo.
There's not a chance in hell that jersey's getting hung anywhere. He's probably.
Oh, he's burning it. He's burning it. You kidding me? I remember when I did the AIC Army game and I went over to the Army bench, and I said hello, and he goes, "Are we related?" And I said, "You better hope not." And then I went over to the IC bench to Eric, and he goes, "You related to him?" I go, "You better hope not." That's awesome. You have a tradition like that and a lineage like that at one school.
Years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That was like
that
history.
probably never happened.
No,
Yeah.
you'll never see that again. And,
No.
And it was really cool to be in the building. Sold out crowd. It was an overtime win for Army. It was like a spectacular goal, like highlight reel goal. Yeah, it was just a great night overall. But like, I do want to share one quick story with Brian. About Brian. It was the year right before COVID, right before the world shut down, and we're out at the Vegas tournament, and where they're playing Ohio State, and the Ohio State coach and their captains, like, they were a little pain in the ass. I might have yelled and screamed at them a couple of times. And as you know, Brian's very vocal. But before the game, you shake the coach's hands. And this one, you go up to Brian, and he just is like, "Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I'm sick." He just looked like a bag of junk, right? He's like, don't touch my hands. So, late in the second period, he's trying to get our attention. And then at the end of it, like, he's like, "Hey, Gene," he goes, "I haven't yelled all game." He goes, "Oh, you couldn't come over and talk?" I go, "Oh, you're full of shit." I go, "If you weren't sick, you would have been yelling and screaming at us the whole And like the assistant Z was taking over for him, Zach, he goes, what do you say? He goes, "Oh, you're absolutely right." He started laughing. That was great.
I thought you were going to say, I didn't want to go over near you because I didn't want to get sick.
Yeah, right.
Right?
I go, yeah. Oh, he was funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, college. Well, I mean, while we're talking about college hockey, the playoffs are upon us.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Firing up this week, and
Yep.
we can get into who the main players are as far as the teams that we think will do well. But a lot of people ask, obviously it's obvious how the teams make it, right? You win and you make the playoffs, and then you play the games, and whoever wins wins. But the referees, we all work during the season to work the playoffs and eventually to work the final. And a lot of people ask, how do they get picked? How does that happen, right? And maybe you can give some insight into that because you're someone who has to pick those crews for your league and to recommend people for the NCAAs.
Absolutely. Like I try to base it on merit as much as possible. There's a lot of tangibles involved. There's performance based. Like when Brian Lewis was in charge of the East Coast League, he was my boss, and he goes, "I do my playoff assignments in pencil because you never know, something could happen. You might, guy might not show up in the semifinals that you had penciled in for the finals, and then now you have to make a decision. So you can't go in with it looking at, hey, these guys are going to be my guys because I I went into last year being my first year in this position, and I had certain guys pegged for stuff, and then a lot of things happened. Even life happens outside of hockey that people are like, hey, I'm just not available this weekend, or hey, I got to shut it down for the season. When you had someone pegged for a good run in the playoffs, then you got to go to your next guy up. And I'm fortunate enough where I have a good 10 to 12 guys I can pick from that have been around, that are veterans, that are pretty good, that are really good actually. And then I have some young officials that are also deserving of it, and they're just I don't think they're quite ready for that level yet, or that type of pressure where the veterans, you got to trust your veterans and guys that have been there, but you also give guys an opportunity too. And the pool shrinks as you go. So like you get the quarterfinals and you pick out of those to move on, and and then just like anything else, you want to work the last game of the season. I mean, that's what you're there for, right? You don't want to just be a regular season guy. You want to be a playoff finals guy, Final Four guy. And if it's your time, it's your time. But you know, is it the calls? It's the rule knowledge. What is it like? How do you judge it on? It's like the whole. It's everything, right? It's the whole package. And some guys just give you like availability for like 2 weeks a month, right? Like when I worked, I worked. I'm like, it's hockey season. You tell me where, I'll be there. Where's the game? I didn't care. I hopped on planes on Friday mornings and flew all over the country to work. It didn't matter. If you want it, go get it.
Now, with I'm guessing, and this might be a question that you'd get with the 4-man system
Yep.
as opposed to the 3-man. I'm sure it's easy to work in those younger officials, those less experienced officials, into a round one game, or two, because you're not putting everything on them like you would in a 3-man system.
I mean, the single games I think are tougher, right? It's like one game a limb. Honestly, those are probably the easier of the games to do because there's a lot more pressure on the line for the players and the coaches. So like the players tend to just stick to playing hockey and not get into the greasy stuff. So and the games usually kind of decide themselves that way. But you have to be there to, if something arises, you got to be ready to handle it. And the veterans, you want the veteran guys on those particular games. But you gotta earn your stripes. I just think I do that more during the regular season. Put a veteran with the younger guys and coach them up that way. And then some of my younger guys carry the crew, right? Like you want one guy to be able to or you want any guy, right? To carry the crew. So if that guy is, if you're out there in the 4-man system and your partner goes down, are you comfortable with that guy skating the 1-man system and actually, handling the game and managing it and making sure everything's buttoned up and it doesn't go in the shit.
Is there ever and I know you've probably talked about this, but I forget. Is there ever like a concern, not a conflict of interest, but like say it's there's a Boston team in the finals and one of the refs is from Boston. Do you tend to stay away from like somebody who's from that region?
No, it's not the region, it's school. So like say if someone went to BC, right? Like I don't do BC, but I'm just using that school as an example. But like if someone went to BC, you're probably not putting them in to do a BC game.
Yeah.
More often than not. Like I actually had to do that this year. I had a the Connecticut Ice Tournament. Atlantic Hockey assigned it this year, America, and one kid went to Quinnipiac, and I had him slotted in that game, and I had to move him to the next game, to the other game, because he
Oh,
couldn't
okay.
start
Yeah, I
there.
was always curious about that too. Like if Boston was ever in the finals and say like Paul Stewart was working the game, I feel
That
like
didn't matter. The National Hockey League, you're professional. Like it doesn't matter. Chris Rooney's
yeah.
worked the Stanley Cup Finals when the Bruins were in it. Like at that point,
Yeah.
it does. Like when you're at that level, like I'm the biggest Bruins fan in the world. Like when I worked
Yeah.
Providence, right? It didn't matter to me. Like I just went out and did the job. Like
Yeah.
it's work at that point. Just like I said earlier, you punching the clock in, right? You just boom, different
Yeah.
mindset, and you just go in, and you can't ref that way, or you won't have a job.
No.
Like
Yeah.
you don't
You
even
ever
realize you react to things. Like
Yeah, and kind of like when you're at that level, and even though it's like at a high level, which I've noticed like playing, like I've played in the Garden, like just pickup hockey, but like within like 10 seconds, you're not in the Garden anymore. You're just it could be any rink. And
yes,
it's yeah, so it's kind of like that feeling of like it's not you see black and gold, but you're not thinking with that
yeah, the games
mindset.
happen, right?
Yeah.
And you gotta have a job to do, and you're only thinking about the job you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably D3 happens more than D1 in that you got a lot of refs that probably played D3
Yep.
that now, because like I went to Curry, and to, give a shout out to Curry. They're number 2 in the nation right now in the D3 poll. And, I went to Curry, but I've done Curry games in the past. And you're right. You're like, you just don't you don't see, you just see a white shirt and a dark shirt. It's
You
not
see, you
who's
penalty,
playing.
all right.
Yeah, and if you're approaching it any other way than that, then you really shouldn't be doing the job to begin with,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because you can't go in hoping one team wins. Even the teams that I hated the coaches that we did not get along, I never went in going, I hope they lose, right? Because if you go in with that mindset, that changes the way you approach the game and see the game, and you
Even
just can't do that.
even for the colleges, right? So like you go out on a trip, and you got the best 2 out of 3 series. So like the next rounds are all 2 out of 3. So um, you want the sweep. You root for the sweep because you want to go the fuck home on Sunday, right? But Saturday
You
night,
don't want to get paid for that third game.
no, I want to go home. Some people like to go. I'm all set. But especially as a supervisor, I want to go home. But no,
Yeah.
but even still, right? Like you're not going into that game going, hey, I'm going to call it this way because I want to go the fuck home on Sunday. It's like, no, I got to go and call the game and let it play out. Because if like you got to be buttoned up, sharp, and 100%. If not, it'll be the last game you do.
Yeah.
Now, as far as so now you have the conference tournaments,
Yep.
and then from the conference you move on to the
The NCAA.
NCAAs.
Yep.
And now and again, does each conference, are they guaranteed a crew in there, or
No,
how does that work?
You're not guaranteed a crew. Every conference submits their top officials. You try to get 2 crews onto the ice, right? That's the goal. A lot of like most conferences have 2. Last year we had 1 hit the ice, and we had one other conference only have one set of officials, and we had a set of backups that they used, which was good experience for those young kids just to go see how it's operated. I remember when I was little or young, like me and Sweeney would go and we'd goal judge. It would be like gophers, like we'd just be behind the scenes. We'd get the pass, right? So we're in the building. You seen how the referees walked in the building professional. You saw how they communicated. They kept their mouth shut, how they stretched, how they warmed up. Then you watch them do the game. Then you see them afterwards. And all the professionals, like how they handle the supervisors, how they handle the coaches. And we got to watch and see that firsthand, just learning. And that's so valuable, just being there and seeing how it's operated and knowing what to expect. Like we sat in on like the meetings, right? And all that kind of stuff. And it was just really cool to be a part of, as just those type of roles. And then when it was your time, you kind of knew what to expect, and it wasn't really a surprise.
Yeah.
And now, you recommend them. who makes that decision? And I'm asking questions that
The
I kind of know
NCAA
the
does,
answers
so-
to, but I'm asking them for
No, they're
people who
great
don't
questions.
understand how this process works.
So
Do you know
you
what I
have
mean?
the NCAA committee. They have a, you know, they got a tournament committee. They got a rules committee. They got all sorts of committees. And you know, Frank Cole's the head of the NCAA. You know,
Love Frank.
Yep, great guy. Great official too for a long time. And he, you know, he talks to all the supervisors. We give him our recommendations. I'll give him my, you know, 8 names that I think deserving of working. And you know, usually the crew that does our championship game, you know, usually gets on the ice for a regional. But the goal is to get to the Frozen Four, right? Whatever game you get out of that is what you get. But you want a crew at the Frozen Four. Like that's the goal. That's my goal, is to get a crew there. And you know, it's hard. You gotta the team's gotta align and all this kind of stuff. And you're competing with Hockey East, NCHC, CAC, WCH, CCHA, all these other different conferences you got. You know, and there's good officials out there. So
Now, again, a question for people who might not understand. You wouldn't take a Hockey East ref and put him with an Atlantic ref, or you know, a CCHA ref with an ECAC ref. Typically, that crew is from the same conference, correct?
all right, so how it works is, yeah, you go with the crew. They're not gonna split crews up, but they might split crews up within the conference. But you know, if you're with Hockey East, you're with Hockey East referees. That, you know, but there's a lot of referees that work multiple conferences. Like I worked 3 different conferences in one season, right? Atlantic, NCHC, and Hockey East my last year. But what happens is if you do 15 league conference games, they have to be league conference games, right? Not non-conference. So non-conference games don't count for this. But if you have 15, you are now considered a Hockey East official. Or you now, if you do 15 league games in the NCHC, you are now considered one of them. So when it comes time for the, you know, the NCAAs, you can't work a school that's out of your conference. So like, if I was with Hockey East, I couldn't do a BC or a BU in the NCAA, so that would eliminate us. So like the 5 years I was, you know, for 5 years in a row that I was in the NCHC, like none of our crews could work the final, because literally one of the NCHC teams won it 5 years in a row. You know, but I went to the Frozen Four twice during that time, but you knew which game you were doing, and that was it, because you know the semifinals was 2 NCHC teams playing each other. Couldn't do that game, and then obviously one of those teams is going to be in the final. Couldn't do that game, right? So that was tough. But the year I did work was fortunate. I was with Hockey East. I went with Hockey East that year, and then you know, none of those teams made it.
Yeah, that was the year you refereed the final in the Garden, correct?
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you like, so you gotta, like, the conferences know, right, if who you're gonna go with, and they kind of schedule accordingly. I shut one guy down this year that was about to, you know, go over the number for one conference, and you know, I needed him over here, so we made that adjustment. So we were conscious of that, because if not, you know, you're really limited to the amount of games you can do postseason.
I think it should be pointed out again, because we haven't talked about it probably since episode 1, but you accomplished something as a referee that actually blows my mind still, and will probably never be done again. So Beanpot final in the Garden,
Yep.
the Hockey East final in the Garden,
Yep.
and then the NCAA championship in the Garden, all in one season.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh, that was all
Yeah.
in one season.
Yeah, it was
All in
one
one
season.
season.
It was
Oh,
February. Yeah, it was unbelievable. February, March, April, like one a month, and it cost my father probably about 10 grand in sweets.
He had to be at every game.
In popcorn. I think he spent $1,000 in popcorn, but
But seriously, like that,
yeah,
I can't downplay that. I mean, you know, or I can't stress it enough how incredibly impressive that accomplishment is. And the fact that you're a Celtic kid refereeing all these games at the Garden, which is what, a mile, 2 miles from your house that you grew up in, is pretty freaking cool.
It was awesome, and each one was kind of unique and special, right? Like the bean pot was the only one I really gave a fuck about. Like honestly, really was. Like the only one I cared, the only one I wanted, the only one I circled was I want the bean pot final, because like I never missed one with my grandfather, right? Like we went all the time, and we would go. We never had tickets. We always went to Parky, our buddy from East Scalper, right? Hey, Mr. Bender, what do you need? Where you go, man? Where you want to sit? Right? And it's just like, here you go, take the
Pick
pick.
a card, any card.
Like, where you want to sit? Loads, where you want? And I'm like, no, we want to sneak in. He's like, no, you go around. No, I'm kidding. But every year we always went, and I remember just going up the escalator with him. He's like, oh, you'll be out there someday, right? And then fortunately, I was out there. I did 2 of them, one final, but that year was like, I remember just stepping on the ice, and like that first lap was like I was skating on air. It was just like It was so cool. I'll never forget that feeling. But
awesome.
like that's what you live for, like with this business, right? It's not just getting hammered by parents and coaches all the time. It's you got some perks and fun, and special events really make it.
That still, I mean, it's just such a cool thing to be able to do, and to have that memory and stuff. I mean, it's just I'm so proud of you, and so it's so cool to tell people, hey, my buddy and my partner, guess what he did? It's just kind of cool,
Like I'm like, I don't know. I hate talking about myself with this shit, but it's like I was at a tournament with my daughter this weekend, and a lot of the parents didn't really know what I did for a job. It's it's the first time playing with this team, and you really start getting to know people during a tournament. And they also saw me with my laptop like a fucking nut, like working from Friday night from like 6 to midnight. They're like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, it's work hours. It's my work hours. But we were talking, like we were just watching something at the Garden. It was the Four Nations, right? We were watching like a highlight of that, and they were talking about the atmosphere in the Garden. And then I was like, that was really cool. I go, the next thing, like closest thing, was that national championship in the Garden that season. And they were like, oh yeah. I was like, I actually reffed the game. But like that atmosphere was absolutely electric. Like I remember going out for warm-ups, and the place was already full. Like it was fucking awesome. Like it was cool. Like just taking that all in.
Who played in that game?
Denver, in Minnesota State.
That's right.
Yep, in Denver.
Denver won it, right?
Yep, there you go. Another NCHC team, right? So I come from the NCHC for however many years, and now I'm considered a Hockey East official, and here I am working the final, and it didn't matter. Like you just go work the fucking game. Like you got a job to do. Just go do the game.
Well, you had said it a while ago. The stars aligned for you.
They have to. Yeah, the stars did align, right? And like you're like, not only I'm like, you're going up against like a lot of other really good referees, right? There's a shitload of them that could have worked that game. Anybody could have worked that game, and it's a privilege to even be selected for the Frozen Four and all that kind of stuff. It's an absolute honor.
Do you guys ever get like well, which I'm sure everybody does, and especially like in like comedy and stuff, or at least I do, where like what you're doing, but you still have a little bit of imposter syndrome, where you're like, you're picking me?
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's always like, my wife's like, yeah, you always act shocked when you get like the call to work like a final or something, and I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, because it's fucking hard. Like, it just doesn't happen all the time, and even. Because like you go through it, like you said, like all these young kids are coming up, like a lot of them are deserving of it, but they're getting passed over because those other guys have the foundation, and it's their time. It's just the way it is.
Yeah,
that's it's such a cool thing, and also D3 is not that different, right? I mean, and how everything happens, and how guys get picked and whatnot.
They're a little different as far as conferences and stuff go. Like they actually they'll switch. They'll swap partners. They'll put 2 from say ECAC, or they're not ECAC anymore. Whatever the conferences are, right? They'll
like Commonwealth Coast.
Whatever it is, right? Like there's a million different names. Like I can't even keep track. but they'll do that NCAA wise, and like that's also a great tournament and a great atmosphere, and they're all at home schools, and it's a great honor to work one of those if you ever have like that's where I know ECAC is, and Peter Fiola and myself, we recruit guys out of that tournament, right, for Division One. Like we want to see you have those high pressured situations and environments and be able to do your job.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, so as far as the process is concerned, now what teams? Who do you? Well, can I ask you who you like for this year's national championship?
I think honestly, I've seen both play live. I think Michigan State is just as good, if not right there with BC. I mean,
yeah, the number 1 and 2 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a play up in Canisius, and Michigan State was well oiled, and BC is just as, I mean, if not one of the best teams in the country right now. I mean, they're number 1, but I mean, you saw BU knock them off. That's why hockey's so great. Anything can happen in one hockey game. You get a bounce one way, or you get a call one way, or whatever. But that's why hockey's so great and special from all these other sports, I think.
Yeah, it can be one save makes the difference.
Right? And it's
one
college
bounce
hockey,
makes the difference.
Like college hockey, they're kids, they're amateurs still. A lot of different variables in their lives too, right? You might have kids on those teams that are already thinking about their NHL deals, right? Or whatever. Anything can happen when it comes to playoffs. So, I said I actually the year Michigan, University of Michigan, they were nasty. They actually made it to the Frozen Four, I think, in Boston. But I had them early on in the season, and they were they were like one of the best teams on paper. They had so many like draft picks. They had one of the best goalies in the country. Like they were phenomenal. But I had them back to back out at the Icebreaker in Duluth, and they acted like complete those like. I don't want like cocky, just real cocky and pompous and just hooting and hollering and just thinking they're like, they're the best thing since sliced bread. Yes, they are. There was
entitled.
Entitlement. That's the word. Yes. And like after the handshake line, they're like melted and beacon. And I grab one of the kids. They go, "Hey, get the fuck over here." And he's like, "What?" I go, "Listen." I go, I don't know. I go, I've been around college hockey a long fucking time. And I go, the best team doesn't always win. I go, you guys are the best team on paper, and you act like this. I go, you're not winning shit. I go, you guys are going to act like this this is the opening weekend. I go, you guys need to get your shit together, or you're going to be on the outside looking in, and someone else is going to be raising that fucking trophy. And he was like, oh, we're just having a good time, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, like, those teams, the most talented teams don't win in college hockey. I've seen it over and over again. It's got to be a team effort. You got to be disciplined. You can't be, entitled, right? You got to want it. And I think maybe that was a big wake-up call for BC and the Beanpot. Who knows?
That's why Herb Brooks said, I'm not looking for the best players. I'm looking for the right players.
Right. I mean, right. Look what Kevin Miller said about the Bruins and how they pick people. It's good character people, right? Like when you're at that level, there's not much that separates you from the next guy. It's there's intangibles involved. It's how you treat people off the ice. Like, are you a dickhead to the trainer? Are you really are you pleasant to be around, or are you one of those kids that just come in and is a disruptor, right? Or are you a leader? Or are you a team guy? Or all that kind of stuff. So all that matters in officiating, and I hate the guys that leave the water bottle and the tape sitting around, and I'm the one I always saw Terry Gohosky. He was on here. He always picked the room up. I'd be sitting there. He'd be coming over, picking my towel up, and putting that away. Like just all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep. Knowing all the off-ice officials, all their names,
get their names,
like that.
Yeah, right. All.
Yep. Well, if you look at the three best players ever to play, right? Bobby Orr, Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux.
Yep.
And I know there's others that we could. I don't think you could put anyone in the top three other than those three, but all unbelievable guys.
Yes.
I mean, nothing. Everyone has nothing but good things to say about all three. I mean, that should tell you. You know, I mean, that should tell you something. And you know, college hockey is no different than March Madness with the basketball.
Right.
You know, a 16 beat a 1 last year. You know, and that should never happen, and it never happened before.
Right.
But when it comes to college hockey, you know, you're right. It's not the best team always wins. And then you got, you know, in hockey too, a goalie. You know, look at Ken Dryden and what he did in 1970
You
to
got
the
a hot
Bruins.
goalie, you can run.
They had no business winning the cup that year, the Canadians, with the team that the Bruins had, and he single-handedly won that cup.
Yep.
So you got a hot goalie. Doesn't matter what team you're on. That can make all the difference in the world.
Right. Especially in college, right? Like you see all these teams, they'd be big, you know, it's really tough to sweep a series, right? Like you always play the same team both nights, Friday, Saturday for the most part, right? And some conferences are a little different, but it's really tough to squeak out 2 wins in a weekend. Like if you sweep, like that's a pretty big deal. Like I know, like you watch the TikToks and all this other crap out there. Like you see some of the teams come in sweep this weekend. You know, like it's an accomplishment, right? You know.
Well, and we should mention we are live on the TikTok right now.
How about that?
And
We haven't
live
got kicked off yet.
No, and you've been talking a lot. I'm shocked.
I know.
Live on Instagram too, right? So we welcome all our people that are watching right now on the TikTok and the Instagram.
Does anybody have?
Of course, make sure you follow, like and subscribe.
Hit that like button.
We forgot to mention that. Like and subscribe. I hope a Boston team wins it this year. And like I've said it before, last year, BU, BC, I think they were put at a disadvantage when it came to the faceoffs. Denver cheated on every draw, and you can go back and look at the film. This isn't an opinion, really. It's fact if you watch it. And, the Denver center cheated almost every draw, and they won almost every draw. And that can make a huge difference in a hockey game. And it happened against BU and it happened against BC. And that's not the reason why Denver won. I'm not saying that. So if you're from Denver, you're a fan of Denver, don't go freaking crazy. But it made a big difference. It gave them a decided advantage in the fact that those faceoffs, in my opinion, weren't conducted the way they should have been. So
I was happy. I was happy for Denver to win that. I don't know. I grew to like a lot of those people that work for them, like all the off ice people, all the equipment guys, like everybody. They're all just like top notch people. Even the coach, like Dave's great.
What are you, a Broncos fan now too?
You know what? No. Me and Sweeney did tell the story the other night about us going to the Broncos Miami game. Almost missed our flight.
That checks out 100%. That checks out.
We're at the gate. We're like, how did we get here? No idea.
We've all been in the airport like that at one point in our careers, right? We almost missed the flight back to Boston from Calgary from the WHL training camp. Yeah, because that was Johnny Lively laying across all our bags, sleeping in the Toronto airport. Sound asleep. Everyone thought he was dead. I think it was him. It might have been me. But now, you mentioned one thing that happened in the last week was the Four Nations tournament. And, I mean, a home run by the NHL, I think.
I thought it was. But you need those other two teams in it. I would have loved to see Russia in there.
Yeah. God. Russia and the Czech Republic should have been in there. But I think because it was kind of, from what I read, it was kind of thrown together.
Yep.
And, obviously there's political bullshit that always goes on with this stuff too.
Yeah.
But what I heard
what's going on with Russia?
Not much.
We might not be on TikTok anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, let's keep that under wraps. Usually it's me that gets us booted. No, I think what the NHL did say was next year we got the Olympics.
Yep.
And then the year after they'll do this Nations tournament, but they might expand it.
They should.
So, maybe it's a Six Nations tournament and you have all 6 of those nations in. I don't know. I think it was a big hit not to have Russia and the Czech Republic
Like
involved.
the
You got
nation,
guys like Pasternak, Ovechkin, all
right?
these guys sitting at home watching this tournament, and you're like, why are they
Well,
playing?
well, they kind of want to replace like the All-Star game, right? So it's like you can't like for something to be like competitive, right? How like you play for this, right? You don't play
Yeah.
like you play for the name in your back, but you play for the name in front of your shirt, right? Like so if USA's across your chest instead of like NHL All-Star,
Yeah.
super team, we're gonna play in a tournament all weekend. You're not really going to be invested, right? But if this is for
Yeah.
your country and for pride, you're going to be invested in it. And I think they're on to something with this, where you want to see a competitive game. Like you're not going to tune into, a 3-on-3, whatever. Yeah, it's entertaining, but no one really cares.
Yeah, it has its purpose, but watching those games where guys are going at it, I mean, 3 fights in 9
care.
seconds with Canada, US, like, I think that's where the NHL captured that. You look at the NBA All-Star game, it's a joke, right? No one plays defense.
Oh, so
It's
every
just,
All-Star game's a joke. Like even the NHL
True.
regular All-Star game's a joke,
Yeah.
right? Like you can't compare the All-Star game to this. Like you can't do it. Like
No.
what you can't compare the Four Nations thing is to what the NBA does to their in-season tournament, right? Like the stupid little thing they did where like it's a Tuesday night and like, oh, this game's for the tournament. We're like, oh,
Yeah.
like, all right, this one, oh, they're gonna compete. Like you have to for a league that has to, put something for their players to compete in a regular season game and saying something about your fucking league, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so it's like, oh, we got to put incentives or something for them to play good during, December, because those games, they realize that those games don't fucking matter.
Yeah.
And they're all getting rich doing it.
And that tournament, in season tournament, doesn't matter. That doesn't mean shit.
And nobody like it only matters for like the people not making any money.
Yeah.
On that team that wins.
Could you see the NBA doing a Four Nations kind of thing where they, put together a team from each country? I mean, there's so many Europeans now that play. Maybe they have a team Europe, team
They
USA,
should.
team Australia, whatever.
Well, everybody else against USA, right? Like you do a USA and then you do a mix with all the other countries, right? That could be kind of cool, but I don't know. Even then, right? Like how much are you really gonna go that hard, right?
Yeah, but I just thought, and shout out to Chris Rooney.
Yes,
buddy Chris Rooney,
absolutely.
who was one of the 4 referees that, and him and Gord Dwyer did a great job in the final.
Gord's a great official.
I thought they did great. Wes McCauley,
he was injured.
He was one of the others, but got injured in one of those games.
Yep.
And I'm drawing a blank on the 4th official.
Gene Beer was.
That's right.
Yep.
And I thought the officiating was great during that tournament. Ryan Daisy, one of the linesmen,
Daisy,
another local guy. Give a shout out to him too. And I thought they did a great job, but I think, it was just, I think it pulled a lot of non-hockey people in.
It did.
Because, they realized watching that there's nothing like it. There really isn't anything like best on best hockey. There just isn't. I don't think you can, even if you did a best on best football, it wouldn't be the same.
No.
You know what I mean? I think, and what was great was Saturday night I watched the Bruins game. The Bruins played, who did they play? Anaheim. And I realized, these are the best players in the world, the NHL, best league in the world. But the step down from that game Thursday night, you realize the best of the best is really the best of the best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and
Noticeable.
that's not to take anything away from anyone that's playing in the NHL that didn't play in that Four Nations tournament, but you could tell, like, top to bottom, those lines, those teams were just insane.
Like
the passing, the skating, the everything.
Well, that goes to show, like the expansion of the NHL is not good, right? Like the more teams there are, the more watered down it's going to be. The less condensed it is, the more talent and the more competition and the better the play is going to be, right? Like, obviously that would be the case, but like that tournament kind of proved it. It was just, you could even make like a 10-team league and it would be unreal. But,
the original 6, that's where it came from. Of course, you could probably say that about any league, right? The more teams, the more watered down it is.
Right.
But of course, the almighty dollar, that drives everything. And if you only have 8 or 10 cities, obviously you're not going to be making money, and that's, it's obvious that's why they do it. But that's why I think this 4 nations or 6 nations or whatever they expanded to, I think that's why it's so cool. Like the Olympics next year are going to be insane.
Yes.
Just absolutely insane, because this 4 nations thing, I think, was a nice primer and
Yep.
pissed a lot of people off to get up for the Olympics. Not only the guys who played for the 4 countries, but the Czechs and the Russians and
They
all
wanna
those
get in
other
there.
countries that weren't. Yeah, they're
But-
going to be pissed off. They're going to be ready to play. So it's
They're
going to be
be
awesome.
pissed off. Like Russia's going to be ready to go. That team is going to be filthy. But
Yep.
the other whole piece of it, it's like the Olympics, right? They're different rules, like different.
Yes.
Like, so you got to play like the IHF rules. So it's like you can't go in there and like do what they did and start 3 fucking fights to start a game. Well, they might be done for the tournament, right? Like
Right.
that type of shit. Like those rules are a hell of a lot different than whatever the hell they played this weekend. I think they just played straight NHL rules.
I think they played straight NHL rules.
Yeah.
I think is what they did, because this wasn't really. This was a NHL thing. It wasn't.
Right. It wasn't anything.
No
it
one
wasn't
else
like
was
an
involved.
IHF. Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
like a.
That's why the tickets were so hard to get, because it was the NHL handling, not the Bruins. So
Yeah.
Well,
no matter what connection you had,
I
at least
dropped.
for me.
I dropped my daughter's friend off from practice on, was it last Tuesday? Right, it was the game Thursday. So he was like, he had the USA hat on. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be an awesome game. He goes, yep, I got 2 tickets. They're going for $1,000 a piece. I go, sorry, Jack, we're not going, are we? I'm selling these.
Right.
He's like, I got him for like 120. I was like, come on, really? I was like, I'm not going to that game. I'm selling that. But no,
Yeah.
he went. Yeah, they went.
The cost of the tickets were absolutely insane. I mean,
Nuts.
they went through the roof. Which, another good thing for the
Yes.
sport of hockey, right? Usually you only see that for like, Super Bowl and stuff like that. So that was that was pretty cool too.
Yeah.
That went not cool for, a lot of people that couldn't afford it, but
Right.
Yeah.
watching it on TV wasn't bad either. You were at a Holy Cross though that night, weren't you?
Yeah. So I ended up going to the Holy Cross Bentley game because the Holy Cross, like, I had that game pegged for a while anyway, because like that was, I mean, the first, second, third place teams playing each other. In Holy Cross, if they got 1 point that night, we were handing them the trophy. So we had to be present. But that didn't happen. Bentley ended up winning, but it was an absolute phenomenal hockey game. Like the first period and a half, I was like, where the hell has this been all year? Like it was friggin' awesome. Like it was like balls to the wall, great hockey, and it was great to see the Atlantic Hockey America show up like that. But unfortunately, the game took a turn, and this was a crazy event where you had a kid get hurt. He got cut with a skate. I think he dislocated his knee too. So like he couldn't even get up off the ice. The ambulance comes out. The doctor's there. So the ambulance takes the kid is lugging him off. And at the same time, there was a medical issue behind the Holy Cross bench. So we're like, what the hell's going on across the way? So now the doctor has to go and attend to them. So now it's 10 minutes left in the second period. I'm sitting up top going, why aren't we starting? What's going on? And then my phone's blowing up. I'm like, what the fuck? So now we run down. They're like, yeah, no EMT, no ambulance, and no doctor. We can't continue play. So I'm like, holy shit. So they're like, well, the town's not going to send someone, like blah, blah, blah. The doctor's attending this guy. That guy's over there. Boom, boom. So next thing you know, we're sitting 40 minutes late. Really kind of put a damper on a great hockey game, but it ended up finishing. But the doctor ended up coming back, and good thing that, I mean, it sucks for the Bentley kid. He has, went in for double surgery, and it was just a freak thing. Like he collided with one of his players and just went down awkward and got cut. But man, sucked. But yeah, that was wild to see 2 medical instances simultaneously and have to pause a hockey game for 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
That's unheard of. And that's tough for everyone.
Yeah.
It's like,
And it's not Holy
you know,
Cross's fault either. It's just one of them. It's like, hey, this.
freak thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, freak thing. And
Right.
that's kind of like during a comedy show, if you have some type of emergency or something, and it's like, you know, I've been there and I've watched guys, you know, have to deal with it. Someone passes out or,
Oh, right.
you know, they have a medical emergency, and you're like,
Sometimes
I wanted
fights break out there too.
that has happened too. Yep. And but it's like one of those things where you're like, you know, they cut the guy out, and then you're like, okay, so guy watching Obama. You know, it's like,
Right? Yeah, I gotta.
you know, and you want to kill, but not literally.
Yeah.
And so it's a similar thing in that, you know, it's kind of tough to get it going again.
So
know?
you performed out in Vegas, right?
Oh yeah. I performed at the Riviera back before they blew it up.
So
Literally
I
blew it up.
I've seen Dice Clay. I saw Dice Clay at the Riviera. I think I saw him there, but I seen him twice out there. And the second time I went out with my fantasy football buddies. It was all my college roommates and all like his brother's friends. We all went out, and we got, you know, absolutely smashed. And I kind of pressed the issue. I'm like, we're seeing Dice Clay, so I brought everybody got tickets. We're like, we're all fucking going. So we like, it was, you know, the midnight show, whatever, right? My college roommate is like, I'm actually very disappointed in Dice Clay that he didn't say or rip him. He was sitting over by like the end of like the wall, just out cold. And like he looked down on him a couple, like he is out like a light, like just gone. And I'm like, I'm just waiting for Dice to fucking light him up. Nothing. I was so disappointed. Nothing. Not one like whistle or like, hey, like nothing. It was just fucking let him be.
That really wasn't his.
No, he doesn't work crowd. He does work
out.
crowd. I've seen him. I actually, the first time I saw him, a guy fucking left. I go, well, you don't.
Really?
First of all, you don't heckle him, right?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
you can't heckle Dice because he'll just fucking carve you up.
Well,
And-
that's what your friend had going for him. He was knocked out cold.
Yeah.
Let him heckle us.
Yeah, he was sleeping.
Yeah.
There's you know, it's funny too because if I don't get, and I saw it last 2 weekends ago, people that leave a comedy show because they get offended.
Oh, I don't get that. Why you go?
It's
Like,
well, I always say if you know, if you don't go to a horror film and get pissed off, you got scared.
Yeah.
You know what you're going into. You
Yeah.
know, so you know, don't be stupid. You know, that's pretty.
Yeah,
simple,
it's like
right?
going to a boxing match and being like, "There's way too much punching going on."
well, there's a lot of violence going on.
I'm
Yeah.
not into this violence.
Why don't they talk it
It's
out?
so true.
It's like the
So
hockey,
true.
right? It's just like hockey where people don't understand the sport. They're like, well, why are they hitting each other? Or why are they punching each other in the face? It's like, well, I mean,
Yeah.
That's hockey.
even playing mini hockey with my daughter, like I purposely didn't let her score playing mini hockey, right? You know, fucking pissed. Boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, the sticks
love it.
across, and then we're fucking wrestling, right? It's just like it just happens. It's fucking hockey, right? You know what I mean? It just brings it out in you. It's like you get out of the sport. It's frustrating.
Kids got to learn to lose. That's what I always said when my kids were little and I'd beat them and stuff. Be like, hey, kids got to learn to
I was
lose.
like, I'm undefeated in mini hockey. You're not beating me.
But
Awesome.
that's
Gino's gonna have stitches one day and be like, "Yeah, it was Dylan. She
mini
smoked
hockey.
me with a high stick."
we had to have the Holy Cross doctor come into the basement.
He actually diagnosed me with a torn meniscus. He said you can still work until your leg falls off. Until you can't. He goes until you
That's
can't try to deal with the pain. Actually, yeah.
But even like you were saying with the non-hockey people,
Yeah.
this drives me nuts when you can always tell who doesn't like hockey when they say something like, "I don't understand why hockey is allowed. I mean, why fighting is allowed in hockey." And my answer is always, "It's not allowed. It's a 5-minute penalty.
Yeah.
Sometimes 7.
Yeah.
It's not
sometimes
allowed.
no.
It's just the penalty is a lot less than it is in baseball and
Right.
basketball."
Sometimes it's 17 minutes because you tack on the 10
Yeah.
for the instigator. And the
Oh,
two.
that's yeah.
And if you watch the U.S.-Canada game, that first game, if you don't understand why fighting isn't in hockey as far as it serves a purpose, I mean,
Yeah.
that just jacked that whole game up another level.
Yeah.
You know, another level. And JT Miller did not land a punch.
No.
Let's just end that debate.
Anyway.
I actually, I did want to mention, I did a game for your dad last weekend, Friday, and it was a girls' game, Stonehill against Assumption. And I got to give those two teams a shout out because it was a great hockey game. 2-1, up and down. I mean, you know what? And I think, we talk a lot about men's hockey, obviously, but we also, your daughter plays, my daughter played. We're huge fans of
I'm in
women's
charge
hockey.
of the Atlantic Hockey America with the women. The playoffs going on right now. Like Syracuse just won in double overtime. Sick goal. Girl walked her, finished. Nice goal.
So I just wanted to give a shout out to those two teams because I guess they're, pretty strong teams in D3, both of them.
Yeah, Stonehill went to the NCAAs last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So they just a great hockey game. I had a blast, and it was a lot of fun.
Does Stephen Walker's daughter still play?
I don't know.
Yeah, she played there. Yeah, Stonehill.
They don't have any names on the jersey, so I wouldn't. I wouldn't know who was who.
You would have saw her broad shoulders in the stands.
Yeah, no, I don't look in the stands.
No, except for.
I'm gonna let that sit. But I do want to say, so I was looking for new pants, right? My referee pants. I caught a screw that was sticking out of the boards at Noble and Greeno, and it ripped the pants right down.
Oh, that's
right?
annoying.
Pocketing out and everything. So, and I did get a screw gun and fix it, but that's beside the point. I was looking for new pants. I didn't want to. The pads in the pants I don't like. They're just too. They made me look fat. I don't know. I didn't like them. But I've worn them forever, right? And so I was looking for something, but I didn't want too much padding, something sleek. I found this zebrasclub.com, this place out of Canada. The pants, the padding, fantastic.
What's it called? It's not PG, is it? Not the PG pants.
No, they're Zebra Club pants. They got
Zebra Club pants.
Yeah, I reached out, told them about us, and hopefully we can make a connection. But
send them this free ad that you just did.
Yeah.
Well, I know I just did a free ad for them, but I just wanted to. They're really, and you know what? I felt sexy. I'm not gonna lie to you. They hug the body nicely. I'm just gonna
slim
say
fit?
that out loud. No, but they
like
did
bird
fit
dog?
slimly. What?
Bird dog. What is
Bird
it?
dog.
What is it? Yeah,
Oh, the pant, kind of like a Lululemon or Viore. Those pants, the Lululemons. I've never worn them.
No, neither have I. I'm not paying $300 for a pair of pants, but yeah.
No, they're ridiculous. But no, I gotta say they were comfy and they looked good, and I can't wait for my next game. So just throwing that out there, just letting everyone know it's out there. So, well, this I think this was a good rap session about everything.
Yeah,
the playoffs, 4 seasons, and live on the TikTok, live on the Instagram. Hopefully, do we have a way of seeing if anyone asked a question or anything, or?
We do have a chat. I don't think it's nothing in the chat.
Okay, all right. Well,
That might be a
do
technical
this.
issue.
Yeah, well, we don't want to try.
First time is here. We're first time.
Yeah, first time we've done actually live on the whole thing.
Yeah.
We're taping tomorrow night too, right? With Carl. Should we go live?
Yes. We might be able to go live tomorrow night too.
Absolutely.
So people will be seeing this on Thursday. So, but people who are live watching this right now would know that we could look up tomorrow and catch it that way too. So
that's going to be a good one. Carl Sasson, guy I refereed with throughout the years, down in Houston, American League, down in San Antonio, wherever, the Texas Loop. He's
great outlook on life too.
Yes,
just great stories, great outlook on life. I hadn't met him till you had him on the Monday Night Quarterback, and we spent a couple hours on the phone the next day, just sharing stories and stuff. So really excited about him coming on. We got some great guests coming up in the next month or so.
Hey, Riley, I forgot to tell you this. You know who was at Riley's last game?
Who?
We go to the reception, and he's fucking sitting there with his chick. Is Scotty Whittemore?
No way.
Yep. So I didn't know
Scotty Whittemore.
Scotty Whittemore. He played with Brian. Jay and one of his brothers coached him. All this fucking shit. Like he
Yeah.
like a long standing relationship with the Riley brothers. No idea he was at the game. He was yelling at Sweeney during the game. Sweeney was like, I don't know what that is, right? And then yeah, it was fucking great to see him. He looked great. You know, he's doing good. So that was fucking awesome to see him.
Shout out to both Scott and Todd the Bod, Whittemore. I'll tell you what, when I was working at ECAC, I worked with them too a lot. They were my linesmen a lot, and I'll tell you what, two of the best linesmen. I mean, we had a blast. We had a lot of fun. You know, just great guys.
So, great humans.
So shout out to both the Whittemores. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well,
I forgot. I'm gonna throw it out there.
So, want to thank our sponsor, the Referee's Crease.
Let me get real close.
And if you're out there and you want to sponsor a podcast, a hockey podcast, feel free to reach out. We're on the verge of signing some people on board. So get on that. Like and subscribe on YouTube. We're up over 700 now. We're at like 704, 705 or 6 or something like that. So we're creeping up there towards the 1K. And find us on all the social medias, the TikTok, the Instagram, the Facebook. As always, make sure you give us a follow there as well. And thank you to AOA Studios for all their work. And we're going to, we'll next episode, Carl Sasson, check out prior episodes. There's 50 of them out there. 50 episodes.
Go check out Referee's Crease podcast. I had Carl on my Monday night, and he did a really good job speaking to the group about mental health and preparation and how to prepare and why it's so important to prepare for a hockey game. So it was a really good listen. About a half hour.
Good primer for Chirping Zebras when he comes on next episode. Episode 52. Right. All right. Any closing remarks from you two before we wrap it up?
No.
All right. All right. Episode 51. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Hope you guys had fun watching and listening. And again, like and subscribe. Follow us on all the socials. Thank you to Referees Crease and AOA Studios. For GENO BINDA Jr., for Josh Dolan, I'm Mark Riley. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on the Chirping Zebras.